Joining us now, Congressman, 9th District, Virginia, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, welcome.
Again, it was a late night.
I know, we just talked to you a few hours ago, and now here you are back, a glutton for punishment. Too much of a good thing on the John Frederick Show, right? But we know you have
good
fun.
Stuff going on the John Frederick Show, that's sure.
I know. Well, it was fun last night, and I just got to go over this again because we were fascinated by it, our panel. Even Ben Tribbett was. We were fascinated by this. At 9 o'clock, Nick Freitas had a 6,000 vote lead. And we're like, wow, right? Overperforming, way overperformed in Southwest Virginia, was carrying Central Virginia big, was carrying Hampton Roads. And we're like, okay, Corey Stewart's going to make this up in Northern Virginia. Okay, well, we said, okay, he's going to make at least 4 of that up in Prince William. So that still leaves him at, 2,000 vote deficit, maybe 1,000. He's got to win Fairfax, Arlington. How's he going to win Northern Virginia? He got creamed in Fairfax last time by Ed Gillespie. So we're figuring, it's going to be very, very close. Yet Corey Stewart wins by 6,000 votes on the strength of a blowout in Fairfax. How did this happen?
Well, I don't know.
That's what we don't know either.
I can tell you about Southwest. I can't explain Fairfax. They baffle me in every election.
Tell us about Southwest. What happened there in Southwest Virginia, Morgan?
Well, I think that Corey had some slippage. There was some type, and I don't know the particulars, some type of a disagreement with Jack Morgan. I think that reduced the turnout. I don't know that they went against Corey, but they were all in for Corey last year. And so Jack Morgan and his organization did not. They're working hard for the party as a whole, and I know they'll work for Corey this fall. But he's got his Operation Red out there, but they just didn't get engaged like they did last year, and I think that made a difference. And I think, there were a lot of folks who were just skeptical, and Nick came to a lot of events that Corey didn't go to in Southwest Virginia, and that makes a difference. So, when you go to the Russell County Republican dinner and Nick is there and Corey's not, that makes a difference.
Well, listen, people expected that Corey would do better in Southwest Virginia than he did. Once we saw those numbers coming in, we knew it was going to be a horse race. But now it's over. Look, Nick Freitas positioned very well for the future. I can see him running against Mark Warner in 2020. What about you?
Well, there's definitely a future for him. He'll have to decide, where his heart calls him to go. Oftentimes, if you listen to your heart, I believe that's the voice of God telling you what to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you make decisions that other people don't understand, like I did when I ran for Congress in 2010. People are like, "You're the majority leader. What are you doing?" Well, every morning I'd wake up and this little voice was saying, "This is the run you're supposed to make." So sometimes you have to listen to that. Nick will have to, pray about it and listen for instruction. But I think he'll find a place to run something statewide, whether that's lieutenant governor, or senator. That's something he'll have to decide.
Well, it's going to be interesting as we go forward. We're with Congressman Morgan Griffith, Republican, Virginia, 9th District. That's the Southwest Virginia area. Very red, very pro-Trump, very conservative. A couple things I want to just go over outside of Virginia. Mark Sanford going down last night, the quintessential congressional Jeff Flake lookalike never-Trumper, getting defeated by an underfunded candidate, Katie Arrington, beating him by 3,000 votes last night on the strength of just basically she campaigned and said, he hates Trump. What does that tell you? Anything?
Well, it tells you that Trump is extremely strong, and, Mark is a good man. We all make mistakes. He's made mistakes, all of which have been very publicly out there. But, he believed in good conscience. It wasn't a political decision for him, his never Trump position. But, you make decisions in politics and you pay the consequences. And last night that came home to bite him. But he, very conscientious man. I'm sorry to see him leave, but I welcome Ms. Arrington and look forward to working with her. But we'll just have to see where we go. But it's basically what it says is don't underestimate Donald Trump, and his popularity, notwithstanding the mainstream media, is extremely high across the country, but particularly in certain sections. One of those happened to be Mark Sanford's district. Another
one is Morgan Griffith's district. That's very Trump, as you know. Congressman, let's get to Corey Stewart, and then I'm going to go to the bigger issues. He is now the standard bearer for the Republican Party of Virginia running against Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine has got $17 million amassed. He'll probably raise another 15 if he feels like it. He'll have $30 million at his disposal. Corey Stewart has a few $100,000. The spending differential in this race could be 25-1. I mean, it could be that bad. Corey, unlikely to get money from Mitch McConnell's organization. I mean, he's led protests outside of McConnell's office. Unlikely to get money from the RNC. They're not targeting this race. So he's going to have to depend on internal money and whatever he can do nationally. Is there consternation this morning about some Republicans that have to run under the Corey Stewart banner because of some of the positions that he's taken that people are not comfortable with? How do you reconcile that?
Well, I do think that there's going to have to be, in some districts, some people making some distinctions between their position and Corey Stewart's. I don't have that problem on most issues in my district. My district's fairly conservative. But that is one of those things. And, of course, you know, he, as you well know, he's got some stylistic issues that may come up. But, you know, sometimes you can make up the money difference with grit and determination, and nobody would accuse Corey Stewart of not having some grit and some determination. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens.
Let's get to DACA. Now we understand that the way I understand it now is leadership has finally stepped up to the plate. They've attempted, it seems like they squashed this Queen of the Hill thing and these 4 bills and the total amnesty clearinghouse bill coming to the floor. We're going to get the Goodlatte bill, which has been watered down, and the, I guess, Paul Ryan McCarthy's New Jersey bill or whatever it is that they're working on. What is going on now with this?
Well, I think you summed it up fairly well. There's a lot of negotiation going on. Leadership has been bringing people into the table to talk and try to iron things out. And to their credit, they got enough ironed out that people are trying to work together to get a reasonable response. But they got enough worked out that they were able to put down the discharge petition, which we think was a very good thing overall. But the discharge petition did bring it to a 4. Both the right and the left want to vote on this issue. We need to vote.
When you say they put down the discharge position, can you, for our listeners that kind of quasi-follow this, how did they do that? Like, what are the workings that made it possible for them to squash that?
When they realized there was a potential that it would actually get enough signatures, that people were frustrated that, you know, after they said they were going to bring something up, probably Goodlatte is what we interpreted, but something up, you know, fairly soon in February. So we all thought by April we'd be having a vote on something. So then there was frustration on both the left and the right. And with the discharge petition, leadership said, whoa, we can't have that and still run the place. We'll end up completely liberal Democrat version going over to the Senate, and the Senate's liable to pass the darn thing. So leadership got to work. They put conservatives and moderates in the room together and started crafting things. The crafting is not completed, but leadership worked very hard to keep everything moving. When things would get tough, they'd call everybody back in. And as a result of that, enough people were persuaded not to sign on to the discharge petition in order to let this process work out. And a lot of progress has been made. And it won't be a bill that you know, the purists on either side will love, but it'll be a whole lot better than what we would have gotten with a handful of Republicans and a majority of the Democrats, or all of the Democrats. And so we think we can put something together that the president can sign, and that's what leadership is working hard to do, and everybody who's in the negotiating room.
So these 2 bills, one of them we know what it is. It's the Goodlatte bill. Bob Goodlatte, 6th District, retiring, worked on this a long time, Judiciary Chairman in the House of Representatives. And this is a pretty conservative immigration bill. He had to water some of it down to get a few backers on it. And then the mystery bill, kind of like Spam, right? Mystery meat, right? You open up the can, you never really know what the hell's in it. So we haven't seen that yet. I guess it's a more watered down version of the watered down Goodlatte bill. So does the Goodlatte bill have any chance of passing the House?
Well, and I haven't done a whip count, but most people believe that based on the whip counts we've seen, it does not. And that's the problem. If there was any chance that Goodlatte, as currently configured, would pass, then that might be a different story. But that's the dilemma. And the leadership was afraid to bring Goodlatte up. I don't understand why D.C. is afraid of having a bill come up and voted on and lose. You just come back with another bill. But that's eventually what I think we're going to do is take a look at some form of Goodlatte, and then if that doesn't pass, then take up this other bill that's being worked on.
All right, so there's not going to be two bills simultaneously, right? There's going to be one bill, see how that goes, and then there could be an alternative if that fails. Is that my understanding?
And that is, now, this is something that has changed fairly regularly over the last week and a half, but that is the plan as of last night, is where I think we're headed. And the Goodlatte bill may be greatly amended by the time it comes to the floor. Right. And it's possible that if the sides can work out, the Goodlatte bill may be amended. We may only have one vote. But I suspect that what we're going to have is some form of Goodlatte, and then this compromise bill, which, has some interesting things in it, some of which you'll like and some of which you probably won't.
But we don't know what it is, so you can't comment on it because you don't know what's in it. Until it's done.
Has not been completed yet.
Right. So even to speculate is kind of meaningless because we don't know what we're speculating on. It's kind of like when we were speculating on the Obamacare repeal and replace, we never really knew what was going to be in it, and it ended up being a colossal waste of time. You have to wait till the final product is put there, and then you can debate the merits of it one way or the other. So I guess we'll have to see. The House
bill was pretty good by the time we finally got finished with it. The House bill was pretty good, although the Senate never would adopt it.
House bill is excellent.
Anyway.
And if you follow the machinations of making the sausage in Congress, that was classic. I mean, that should be taught in Harvard in John Kennedy Political School because the bill that was finally came out of the House was better than anything that had come in. And it had the potential to really make a difference. It couldn't pass the Senate. We don't know what's going to happen with the immigration bill, even if it is passed in the House, whether it can get the votes in the Senate. Who knows? We'll have to see. That's a whole different story. Let's get to the merger. The president and the Justice Department opposing AT&T Time Warner merger, saying, hey, this is just too big, but I guess bigger's better. A federal judge said, I don't see a problem with it. Also, in his language, when the judge ruled, Congressman, he said, I really don't recommend that the government, the Department of Justice, get a stay on this. He seemed to think it was pretty clear there was no violation of antitrust with it. What did you make of this ruling as a lawyer?
Well, and I was never an antitrust lawyer, but it looks like to me that it's too big. I mean, that's my gut reaction. I think the Justice Department and the President are right. It makes me nervous when you have an entity that big. And, it's fascinating that we haven't heard, from the left because, they're the ones who wanted, everything to be even playing field, even though it wasn't. They claimed that, that's why they had to have net neutrality, even though that wouldn't make it an even playing field. And here comes a real threat to an even playing field in the entertainment industry and ISPs, et cetera. And they weren't decrying this ruling. This was, I think, an unfortunate ruling, and my gut tells me it was wrong and that this is going to be a big monopolistic turn in our entertainment industry.
I agree with you.
Over the Internet.
I agree with you. But the government can't stop it, right? I mean, Congress can't stop it.
Well, Congress can do anything it can get the votes for. Unfortunately, we have a hard time getting votes for stuff. But we can do just about anything as long as it's constitutional. And this is clearly under our purview if we wanted to do something. But it would take tremendous effort to get something out of the Senate. And when we're tackling with all these other issues, I think the fact that the court didn't agree means the merger probably goes forward, and then we'll be unraveling it for years to come.
I agree 100%. Thank you for your time. As always, great insight by Republican Congressman from the 9th District of Virginia, Southwest Virginia, Morgan Griffith. More information, go to griffith.house.gov.